Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good morning, wherever you are. And today is the second day of revision class about the 37 practices of Bodhisattva and the three principles of the path. And today there's nothing much I can review. I can do the revision. At the beginning, His Holiness start with the mental health. I think it is very important. When we eat healthy food, do the proper exercise, so our physical body mostly free from sickness and disease. Also, we can live more youthful life. It's called physical healthy. Because Buddha Shakyamuni, based on the sutra, Nagarjuna said one of the treatises, the food and drink, which is we are taking, we are eating, always consider as a medicine. When we eat food, we should not have an attachment with the taste, with the fragrance, with the shape and color. When the food comes, bad shape, no taste, not good fragrance, no good smell, we should not get angry. We should not have a sense of hatred of our food. Also, when we take the food, we should not think, I'm taking the food in order to be more fatty, more muscles, more flexible, only for survive. How we can how we can be physically healthy. Second, yes, all human beings on the planet, everybody care about the physical health, healthy body, healthy life, healthy family, healthy business, healthy environment. But very few number of people thinking healthy mind hygiene. Therefore, all the teaching taught by Buddha Shakyamuni, taught by all the masters, they taught all the teaching in order to have a healthy mind, a pure mind, and calm mind. Therefore, Buddhism is only mainly about how to have a pure mind, how to have a healthy mind, how to have a hygiene mind, how to have a calm mind. Therefore, if we really consider ourselves, I am a Buddhist, then we always need to focus how to have a pure mind, the purity of mind, a healthy mind, a hygiene mind, calm mind, happy mind. Therefore, Buddhism is for healthy mind. So Buddhism cultivates a healthy mind based on Buddha teaching with the logics and reasoning. Non-Buddhist people who follow other religion like Christianity, so and so, they purify their mind try to have a pure mind based on belief in God. Somehow, whether you believe in God, whether you are not believing in God, just follow Buddha, everybody need to focus to have healthy mind. Then Isuri said, so Buddha Shakyamuni, before Buddha Shakyamuni, the Indian ancient culture was there. There was before 3,000 years. In the ancient Indian culture, the non-violence, ahimsa, is very important common practice all Indian that time. And also we must remember 2,000-3,000 years ago in India, there were only 3 religions. First Hinduism, second is Jainism, who follow the Jain religion, third Buddhism. There wasn't any other religion like Christianity, Islam, Judaism. Therefore, in the ancient culture, Indian ancient culture, the non-violence and the contentment is very important practice. So why they practice non-violence? Because they practice compassion. If you practice compassion, if you are a very compassionate person, then you never involve in the violence action, physically, mentally, verbally. Therefore, in order to practice the non-violence, we must practice compassion. Also, Buddha Shakyamuni taught non-violence. Practice of compassion is a very, like a common teaching, common practice. But after he became a Buddha, slowly many, disciples attend his teaching. The more disciples attended his teaching, he need to analyze the disciples. Therefore, different disciple has a different mental disposition. So Buddha Shakyamuni taught the teaching according to the mental disposition, according to the disciples. Therefore, within the Buddha teachings, within the Buddhist practice, there are so many different kinds of practice, different kinds of teaching, different kinds of view, so and so, because Buddha taught all the teaching according to the mental disposition of the disciples. Therefore, in the Buddhist tradition, we have 3 yam or 3 paths: the hearer path, the solitary realizer path, and Bodhisattva paths. Why there are 3 different paths? Because we have disciple has 3 different mental disposition. Whether you follow the hearer path, solitary realizer path, the Bodhisattva path, all the paths mainly apply to subdue your negative thoughts, to control your mind, to purify your mind. Therefore, all the teachings mainly apply to eliminate the negative emotions. Therefore, different disciples had different mental disposition. Therefore, within the Buddhist tradition, we have 4 different philosophical schools. Within the Madhyamaka, there are 2 sub-schools. So in order to control the negative emotion, in order to cultivate the positive mental attitudes, there's a 2 traditions. One, based on merely, based on faith. Second, not just have a faith towards Buddha, faith towards law of causality, based on reasoning and logics. Therefore, His Holiness himself, so he follows the Nalindra tradition. Therefore, all his practice based on logics and reasonings. Also, as a Buddhist, everybody have a faith. Everybody believe in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Also, we believe in next and previous life. Also, we believe in karma, law of causality. All the belief system go along with the wisdom. Wisdom. Without wisdom, all the belief system, whatever we believe, it look like blind person. So the faith must go along with the wisdom. This is one of the very uniqueness in Buddhist tradition. Rest of the other religion, the faith never go along with the wisdom. So then His Holiness give advice about the religious harmonies. Generally, on the planet, in this world, we have different religions like a tradition. All religion teach love, compassion, tolerance. We must have a harmonies between the different religion, particularly within the Buddhist. Whether you follow a Theravada tradition, Mahayana tradition, or Tantrayan, we must have a religious harmonies within the Buddhist tradition. Particularly today, the people who attended the teachings, we are from Asia, we are Asian, like Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand. Those countries, historically, a Buddhist country. It's okay, we openly, teach Buddhism. It's okay, we openly promote Buddhism. In the West, the Western country, Europe and America, those countries, historically, a Christian country. And those countries, when we teach Dharma, we have a very careful. So this advice, what we learned within the Buddhist. For example, there are so many Tibetan teachers that go all over the world. They give teachings. When they go, for example, like Chinese, go to China, make sure they follow the Chinese culture. Otherwise, there's a dangers to create disharmonies. So therefore, it is so important to have a harmonies within the Buddhist follower. And also in the Asian country, all the Asian Buddhist country, everybody chant, recite the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra is one of the Prajna Paramita teachings in the Tibetan language. So actually, traditionally, Buddha Shakyamuni gave a teaching about emptiness with the 16 different texts. Some teachings are so vast. In Tibetan language, we have 16 volumes about the Prajna Paramita teaching. The Heart Sutra is one of the condensed teaching about Heart Sutra. The most shortest, the condensed teaching about emptiness is the syllable is the shortest and more condensed teaching about emptiness. So Heart Sutra is is a very right amount of teaching about emptiness. Therefore, I think most of you knew what His Holiness mentioned about the Heart Sutra. After finish the background of the Heart Sutra, then there's a words. 5 aggregates also empty of inherent existence. Also. So in the Chinese, Heart Sutra, there's no also. They just say 5 aggregates empty of inherent existence. So in Tibetan language, the Heart Sutra in Tibetan language, the Heart Sutra in Sanskrit language, they have the words also. So why the also, the word is so important? Based on His Holiness study or experience, here we need to know the will of Dharma. The first will of Dharma, Dharma about 4 noble truths. When Buddha Shakyamuni taught the 4 noble truths, he introduced each of the four noble truths with the 4 characteristics. Within the 4 noble truths, the first truth, the truth of suffering, has 4 characteristics. First, impermanence. Second, suffering. Third is awareness. The fourth is selflessness. When he introduced selflessness, the Buddha Shakyamuni introduced only selflessness of person, selflessness of being. When he taught the first will of Dharma, he didn't, really taught the selflessness of the 5 aggregates, just selflessness of person. Then second, when he turned second will of Dharma, that are not only selflessness of person, the basis of the person is 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates also selflessness. Not only person is selflessness, the basis of the person, which is 5 aggregates, also empty of self. So this is, I think, very important. Then, as an advice, His Holiness advice today for the people who follow the Pali tradition, the Four Noble Truths, the practice of true independence, 37 practice of 37 practice of the Arhat. All of them we must practice with the wisdom, with the logics and reasonings. Because within the Four Noble Truths, truth of suffering, we can experience, we can understand. Origin of suffering, also we can understand why we have a suffering. Then path, also quite easy to understand. Then the fourth one, truth of cessation. The truth of cessation, we must establish, we must try to understand based on reasoning and logics. Otherwise, without reasoning and logics, so difficult to believe in the cessation. Therefore, so all practice, we must practice along with the wisdom, along with the reasoning and logics. Why we have to go along with the reasoning and logic in order to apprehend the cessation? Because cessation is not external phenomena. It is internal phenomena. It is inner phenomena. So in order to believe in cessation, first we must know the Buddha nature. Buddha nature. Also the nature of mind, the truth nature of mind, the truth nature of consciousness. The truth nature of consciousness is look like gold. It look like gold. It's very pure. But we have all the negative thoughts, anger, attachment, desire, ignorance. Those are look like dots. It look like mud. With the gold, covered by mud. Doesn't matter how much mud, covered the gold. The gold nature is very pure. Doesn't matter how many negative emotion we have, but the truth nature of the mind is very purity. It's a very pure and purity. All the negative emotions is arise, spontaneously. It's called all the negative emotions are adventitious. It's arise and goes away. It's arise, goes away. It never be in the truth nature of mind. Therefore, in order to understand cessation, we need to know the truth nature of mind. Also, we must know all the negative thoughts are adventitious. Also, in order to understand the cessation, also we must know the true obscuration, true obscurations. First, the afflictive obscuration. Second is the cognitive obscurations. So in order to free from these true obscurations, also we need to realize emptiness. In order to realize emptiness, we need to study about emptiness. Therefore, the Heart Sutra is one of the right teaching to study about emptiness. Then also His Holiness today repeat about the formless emptiness of so and so. And also another important, Buddha Shakyamuni, the first during the first wheel of Dharma, he very much emphasized generally the Four Noble Truths, not very precisely about the Four Noble Truths. During the first wheel of Dharma, Buddha Shakyamuni very much emphasized the first truth, truth of suffering, the origin of suffering. But he didn't very much emphasize about the last two truths. The truth of cessation, the path to cessation. Then second, when he turned the wheel of Dharma, then he very much emphasized the last two truths. The truth of cessation, the path to cessation. Why and how? The second view, when he turned second wheel of Dharma, he very much emphasized emptiness. Emptiness. Then also, the object, clear light. Emptiness. Emptiness. Not only emptiness, cessation, emptiness with the cessation. So during the second wheel of Dharma, Buddha Shakyamuni very much emphasized about the cessation. Cessation. Then third time, when he turned the wheel of Dharma, then he very much emphasized the path to achieve cessation, the path to achieve liberation. How? Then Buddha Shakyamuni taught, there are so many different kinds of mind, gross, subtle, very subtle, one very subtle as mind. So when he introduced, the very subtle as mind, then he introduced the subject clear light. Object clear light means the emptiness. The subject clear light means the subtle mind, one of the subtlest mind. Then how we can able to apprehend the subtle mind, how we can use the subtle mind. In order to apprehend the subtle mind, in order to utilize the subtle mind, then we need to study, we need to practice the Tantrayana path. That's mean when Buddha Shakyamuni introduced Four Noble Truths, he's already put the foundation about the object, clear light mind, emptiness. Then subject, clear light mind, which is linked with the Tantrayana. So that means also subject, clear light mind means the subtle mind, object is emptiness. So again, in order to fully understood, make sure you are really not mistaken about emptiness. Also, we need to study, teaching. There are so many teaching taught by Asanga, Vasubandhu. Those are very important teachings, but those teachings are not that important for understanding emptiness. In order to unmistakably understand emptiness, we need to study the 5 treatises from Nagarjuna, particularly the Madhyamagga Mulakarika and the, I think, Jewel, right? Umar Rinchen Tawa. Second is Jewel something, right? Sonam? Jewel, Umar Rinchen Tawa. Middle way, Anyway, garland, precious garland, and the Mula Maga, Made Maga Karika. These two teachings are very important because the Mula Maga, Made Karika very much emphasize emptiness, step by step, step by step. Then the precious garland very much emphasize the practice of great compassion, practice of bodhicitta, practice of six perfection. So what are the individual fruits of six perfections? Then, in order to fully understand the Nagarjuna treatise, so then we have to study about the entering into middle way by Chandrakirti. So in TBC, we already start to have a class about the entry into middle way. Okay, then now we can go actually to the 37 practice. So I will go from the beginning very fast. The first, program number 1, is tell us how much important human life is. Therefore, as a human, we always need to appreciate to be human. There's a ship, right? This rare ship of freedom and fortune, ship. In the ancient time, in order to cross the ocean, everybody must need a boat. If you have a good boat, definitely you will be able to cross the ocean. If the boat is very weak, so many problems, you sink in the middle, you cannot cross. Other beings like animal, hungry ghosts, lower realms, those beings, they cannot cross some ocean of samsara because their life is not perfect life to practice dharma. Then second is how we should practice the dharma. Generally, you can practice dharma anywhere, but as a beginner of the dharma practitioner, you need to keep a distance. You need to keep a distance, or you need to abandon the place where you were born. As a beginner, if you try to practice dharma where you in your hometown, then there's always problem with your friends, with your enemy, with a neutral person. Therefore, in order to do the proper dharma practice, so you will need to abandon, the hometown. If your mind is very stable, if you have a stability mind, then you no need to, keep a distance with your hometown. And also, it is not just enough to, abandon your hometown. Also, we need to abandon the bad object of the negative thoughts. And also, number 4, we must have a friend, dharma friend, not the evil friend, dharma friend, a positive friend who assists us to practice our dharma. Then number 4 is, introduce us impermanent. and death. Number 6, it tells us it is most important, very important, to rely on a perfect teacher. Then number 6 is talking about taking refuge. Number 8, it tells us we should not engage into the negative action because none of us want suffering. We don't want suffering. Therefore, we need to purify the negative karma as well. We should not engage into negative action. Then number 9, it introduced the renunciation. Number 10, introduced us bodhicitta. Number 11, introduced us how to cultivate bodhicitta based on exchanging self and others. Then number 13, 14 tell us practice of giving and taking. First, giving, dedicate all virtues. Number 13, taking. And first, giving your merit to others. Second, taking the negative karma, taking their suffering. Number 14 also, tell us the practice of taking. Then number 15, practice of patience. Not just be patient, we must respect the people as your teacher who criticize you. Be patient. Number 16 also tell us practice of patience, particularly patience with your enemy. Also respect your enemy as your dear child. Then number 17 tell us control our ego. Also tell us we must have respect the people who criticize us, who tell us all our faults, to accept as a teacher. Then number 18, 19 is tell us the two conditions, very danger to decline the bodhicitta. When you become very poor, no food, nothing, then we forget to practice bodhicitta. When we were very sick, so many problems, then also we forget or we give up practice of Dharma. Therefore, I know, some of my friend, Dharma friend, they were at the beginning, they were very serious about study and practice Dharma. Also, particularly, they are very serious about recitation and chanting. Then one day, when they have an economic problem, financial problem, family problem, physical problem, mental problem, then they thought, I have all this problem since I follow Dharma. Then they totally give up, practicing Dharma, and also they just abandon, throw all the religious object, like Buddha statue, the Dharma textbook. Therefore, it is very, I think, very common when you seriously follow Dharma, all the serious problems will come to you. If you don't follow Dharma, if you become very naughty, very bad person, look like all the good things come to you. Then people thought it's good. because I'm very, I deceive people, I cheat people, but I am getting so many things. Is that thing good? Actually, no. That moment, all the positive karma is going to exhaust very fast. When you seriously follow dharma, you can have all kinds of problems. That time is the best time to test yourself how much your mind is strong, how strong mind you have. That's the best time to test yourself. Are you be patient or you are impatient? Also, that is the best time to test about your trust, your belief in dharma, belief in karma. Therefore, number 18 and 19 is tell us the danger, the cause to decline bodhicitta. Also, when you become very famous, it's not as a lay person, it's a very common for Rinpoche, like Geshe and monk. When they become more famous, many people will come, many people give a lot of respect. Then at the same time, the monks, the Rinpoche, the Lama, the Geshe, they increase their ego. Increase the ego. Also let it increase all the negative thoughts. Then there's no more bodhicitta, no more compassion. Then also very danger cause to decline bodhicitta. Particularly the anger, hatred. Number 20, anger is the very great enemy for the bodhisattvas, bodhicitta practitioner who follow bodhisattva paths. So we have to control our anger. And also number 21, not control anger, also control your desire. Then number 22, how we can look at when we perceive things. Now I will go to, from the 23, 22nd of 23. Look at whatever appears is your own mind. Your mind from start was free from the fabricated extremes. Understanding this, do not take to mind inherent signs of the subject and object. This is practice of bodhisattva. 22, right? So 22. Whatever appears is your mind, appear is your mind. It doesn't mean, for example, the books appear to you, the book is your mind. No. The things appear to you as a beautiful just creation of your mind. The object appear to you as a beautiful object. The object beautifully appeared to you is also your mental creation. We always notice, always must know if you think, wow, this is so nice, this is so beautiful, you should think, this is my own creation. The object side, neither beautiful, not beautiful, neither ugly. So whatever appears is your own mind. Your mind's the state was free from fabricate extreme. Then, yes, thing appear to us as a beautiful, it is my creation. It is my mental creation. Second, then you need to study about your mind. Therefore, according to Chitta Mantra school, they believe the mind exists inherently. When you study your mind, your previous mind, present mind, future mind, then you cannot find there's a substantial mind. You cannot find this inherent mind. Therefore, your mind from the start was free from fabricated extremes. Understanding this, do not take to mind. Therefore, when something appears to you, you must remember, nothing exists inherently. Nothing exists as a beautiful, as a ugly from the object side. It is from my mental creation. Number 23, when you encounter attractive object, though they seem beautiful, like a rainbow in the summer, don't regard them as a real and give up attachment. Here we are not saying there's no beautiful object and ugly object. Yes, there's a beautiful object, ugly object is there. But when you encounter an attractive object, what we think, the attractive object is attractive from the object side. It's not. For example, let's say there's a beautiful object and you and your friend go to see the beautiful object. For you, the object is 100% beautiful. You say it's a most of the beautiful object. Your friend says, oh, maybe I don't think it is that beautiful. It's okay. Now you can see one object is very beautiful to one person. It is not that beautiful other person. Therefore, something appeared to us a beautiful object. You should not think that it's beautiful from the reality. It's beautiful because your mind. Like a rainbow is summer. I don't think many people know what does mean the rainbow in the summer. When we look at the rainbow from the distance, we can see very beautiful, 5 colors. We like the colors. Then you think, oh, I really like the color. I want to see more closely. I want to see more closely to the rainbow. When you approach closer to the rainbow, closer and closer, at the end, you cannot see anything. No rainbow, no color. Then you return back, few steps back, you can see again the rainbow. Then what happened? When you go closer, you cannot see rainbow. You cannot see the rainbow. Yes, beautiful. Also, you cannot see. When you move back, you can see. Therefore, the beautiful and ugly object, when you just look at, you can see as a beautiful, you can see as a ugly. When you analyze most closely any object, you cannot find. Therefore, you should not attach, also you should not have a sense of hatred. Well, and give up attachment. Also we have to say, when you encounter the unattractive object, though they seem ugly, like a rainbow in summer, don't regard them as a real and give up anger, give up hatred, give up unpleasant feeling. Then number 24, all forms of suffering are like a child's death in a dream. Holding illusory appearance to be truth makes you wary. Therefore, when you meet with the disagreeable circumstances, see them as illusory. All forms of suffering are like a child's death in dream, right? Let's say you have a more loving child. So somehow in your dream, you have a dream about your child was dead. Just imagine that time, what kind of feeling will you have? Of course, in the dream, you feel very upset. In the dream, you are crying. Actually, you can say something is dream, the people really cry. You can see the tears coming out from your eyes. Because that moment, the person, doesn't realize it is dream. They thought it's a real. Therefore, we have all kinds of problems. We think everything established as a real. Therefore, make you vary. Therefore, when you meet with the disagreeable circumstances, see them as a illusory. Also, you change this up in this sentence. Therefore, when you meet with the agreeable circumstances, see them as a illusory. Therefore, what it teaching us, some beautiful things appear to you, be normal. Should not attach, should not clinging on it. When something appears as a very ugly, disagreeable object, be neutral. No need to act as a angry and unhappy and hated. Be normal. That means control your mind. Therefore, if you follow Buddhism, if you follow the Bodhisattva's path, everybody have to be look like very solid stone. Solid stone. The solid stone keep in raining, in the rain, in the water, it never going to melt. The solid stone rock cooked into fire, it not going to melt. The solid rock you live outside with the strong wind, windy area, the rock cannot move. Therefore, some good thing happen, should not react. Some bad thing happen, should not react. Have to be very calm, control your mind. Try to be look like solid rock. Otherwise, until now we have been look like piece of paper on the stick. Piece of paper on the stick. If you move little bit, the paper will move. If you put in the east side, the wind blow, it move this side. Therefore, we really need to control our mind. If you're able to control your mind, then no attachment, no anger, no hatred, no ego, then you can have a happy mind, peaceful mind. So this whole sentence you need to change with the related to attachment, related to anger, related to beauty and ugly. Then sentence number 25. Practice of generosity. When those who want enlightenment must give even their body, there's no need to mention external thing. Therefore, without hope for return or any fruition. So how we must practice generosity? When we practice generosity, we should not put a hope. If I give this to someone, I can get something from them. Also, you should not think I'm giving this to this person or this being, then in the future, I can have a wealth. Therefore, we should not have any hope, should not have a desire, something return, and also we should not have a desire about the fruition. Therefore, if you really wish to be Buddha, we need to practice generosity. Also, if you need, you must give your body. Here again, I think most of you attend the entry into middle way must remember the practice of generosity, how much it is important. Remember Lamrim, excellent body, excellent resources, excellent company. In order to have an excellent body, healthy life, we need to practice ethical discipline. In order to have excellent resources, house, food, medicine, whatever we need, practice generosity. In order to have an excellent company like friends and family, we need to practice patience. Therefore, Buddha Shakyamuni, when he give a teaching in the public or in the community, most time first he talk about practice of generosity, because the practice of generosity is suitable for mostly for the lay person. Therefore, practice of generosity. Then 26 is practice of ethical discipline. Without ethics, you cannot accomplish your own well-being. So wanting to accomplish other is laughable. Therefore, without worldly aspiration, safeguard your ethical discipline. Therefore, in order to accomplish for Buddhahood, to benefit other sentient beings, we need to practice ethical discipline. Without ethics, you cannot accomplish your own well-being. It's very true. If you are very like a bad person, deceived person, you cannot really have your well-being. Of course, in order to achieve Buddhahood, so we need to practice ethical discipline first, generosity, ethical discipline. Then 27, Bodhisattvas who want well for virtues, those who harm are like a pursues teacher. Therefore, towards all cultivate patience without hostility. Therefore, Bodhisattva who wants well of virtues, he doesn't, Bodhisattva never looking well of the material things. They're always looking well of virtues. Those who harm, if somebody harm you, you should think that harming person who harmed me, it look like you met treasures, precious treasure, right? So when you see your enemy, you always feel happy. Oh, I have an opportunity to practice patience. I have an opportunity to practice compassion. Therefore, the people who harm you, you always cultivate patience without hostility. And also many people think, it is no good to think, my enemy as my teacher. It's not good to think my teacher, my enemy as a precious treasure. If you able to accept your enemy as your teacher, as your guru, as a very important person, you always gain good things. You're not going to lose anything. If you're not able to accept the enemy as your teacher, you always believe the enemy as an enemy, then you always lose. You lost everything. Particularly, you lost your peace of mind. Sometimes when you remember your enemy, you cannot sleep well. You lost your sleeping. When you remember your enemy, you cannot eat well. You lost your health. When you always remember your enemy, you cannot feel the taste of the food and drink. Therefore, it is logical, illogical, is real or not, it's better to accept those enemy as your teacher, as your guru, as a precious treasure. Because we always need good things. We don't want any bad things. Therefore, when you look at the enemy as your teacher, you always gain good things. (27) 28, practice of joy effort. 28, practice of joy perseverance, joy effort. Seeing even hearers and solitary realizers who accomplish only their own good, strive as if to put out a fire on their head. Right? Let's say somebody make a fire on your head, but I don't have a hair, but I don't anybody can make a fire on my head. Okay, so who has a hair, somebody just make a fire on your head. Can you remain very happily, or can you be very relaxed? No, immediately, you put up the fire, right? Same way, the hearer, the solitary realizer, they are only wishing to liberation for only their benefit. They always put a lot of effort for achieving liberation. And you are, or we are, we follow the Mahayana path. We follow the Bodhisattva path. We put more effort because we wish to achieve Buddhahood to benefit billions of sentient beings. Therefore, we always need to put the effort, the joy perseverance, or joy effort. Then number 29 is mindfulness. It's a very important sentence because many people has a misunderstanding about meditation. 29. Understanding the disturbing emotion or destroy it, right? So we must understand the disturbing emotion can be destroyed only or by special insight and karma body, right? So this actual is explained about meditation. Why we need to do meditation? Why meditation is so important? We don't want any disturbing minds. How we can destroy the disturbing minds? Through first mindfulness. You need a good concentration. Not just concentration, there's concentration with the wisdom. By special insight, like more part of wisdom. Karma body is more, meditative civilization. Cultivate the concentration with surpasses the four formless observation. This is the practice of Bodhisattva. Here, differentiating between the supreme mandans and mandan karma body and special insight. According to Buddhist tradition, all the non-Buddhists who follow the Hindu religion, who practice the Hinduism, they only practice the karma body, special insight, what do you call the mandans, karma body, and special insight. What we call mandans, those kind of meditation, doesn't matter how long you meditate, how long you practice, you're able to go all the way, all the way to the top of the peak of the samsara. All the way those formless. Formless has four parts. I think limitless space, the limitless consciousness, nothingness, and tip of the samsara, or peak of the samsara. Therefore, if you practice the mundane special insight in karma body, you will go only until the peak of the samsara. You cannot go beyond. Therefore, Bodhisattva must practice the special insight karma body, which is able to go beyond the samsara. Therefore, four formless observation. This is the practice of Bodhisattva. Then, sentence number 30. also is sent as a lamrim. Since the 5 perfections without wisdom cannot bring perfect enlightenment, along with the skillful means, cultivate the wisdom, which does not conceive the 3 superior as a real. So here I will give you the basic idea, right? First renunciation, then great compassion, then bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, then you must take the bodhisattva vows. When you take, since you have taken the bodhisattva vows, you must practice the 6 perfections. Within the 6 perfections, 5 are without the wisdom perfection. The 5 perfections are look like blind person. Blind person. So within the 6 perfections, the perfections of wisdom is very important. Without a perfection of the wisdom perfection, you cannot have a complete practice of the 5 perfections. Therefore, here look at, since the 5 perfections without wisdom cannot bring perfect enlightenment, even though it cannot bring the liberation, along with, there's a skillful means and cultivate wisdom. The wisdom must cultivate or practice with the bodhicitta, with the great compassion. So another way, bodhicitta must practice with the wisdom, then you bring to perfect enlightenment. What does mean the perfect wisdom, perfection wisdom? Then the which does not conceive the 3 superiors. Mean, let's say practice of giving, practice of generosity. The person who are giving, the giver, the recipient, the object which you are going to give, you must realize, we need to realize 3 of them, all the 3 things: recipient, giver, the object going to give, all 3 things must realize empty of inherent existence. That's been 3 spheres. 31, then also very important, if you do not examine your own errors, your own faults, or your own problem, you may look like a practitioner but not act as one. Therefore, always examine your own errors. Rid yourself of them. Right? Therefore, this is the actual meaning. What does mean practitioner? What does mean Buddhist? In Tibetan language, Buddhist says Buddhist. In Tibetan say Nangpa. Nang means inward. Nangpa. Always look inward. Non-Buddhist, we Tibetan call Chirolpa. Always looking outward. We Buddhists always need to look inward. Always look in your mind. Always check your mind. Therefore, if you do not examine your own errors, your own faults, your own problem, we are not talking about physically faults, the mental faults, mental errors. You may look like the practitioner, but not act as one. Therefore, always examine your own errors. Then rid yourself of them. When you realize your faults, your problems, you must eliminate right there. If you don't realize your own faults or own errors, if somebody tells us, oh, your way of thinking is wrong, or your believing is wrong, then we must study is wrong or right. If we knew is wrong, we must eliminate. This is, I think, actually very important advice for the Buddhist. If you do not examine your own errors, you may look like a practitioner but not act as one. Therefore, always examine your own errors, rid yourself of them. So you have to you need to eliminate yourself. Nobody can eliminate your faults. Even the Buddha told us, I show you the path up to you, right? Also Buddha said, I cannot transform my realization to you. I cannot wash away your negative thoughts. I cannot, eliminate your suffering by my hand. Realize the truth, realize the emptiness. You will be free from the suffering. Also, he has said, rid yourself of them. Then 32, also I think when we have the Madhyamaka entered into middle school, so I will explain more. 32 is also very important. 32, if through the influence of the disturbing emotions, you point out the faults of the another bodhisattva, you yourself are diminished, so don't mention the faults of those who have entered the great vehicles, who are entered in the great vehicle. This is very, have to be very careful. What Buddha said, you should not judge anybody. You should not judge anybody as a good or bad. You never know who is Buddha, who is Buddha. Therefore, when we judge, oh, this person good, this person bad, actually we don't know. This person look like good, but maybe he's a very bad person. The person look like is very bad. We don't know the person is Bodhisattva. Therefore, in case the person is Bodhisattva, if you, trust all the kind of negative things, then you're going to decline your practice. If through the influence of disturbing emotion, you point out the faults of whom another bodhisattva is a bodhisattva, you yourself are diminished, so do not mention the faults of those who have entered into the great vehicles. It's very, very, I think, important advice. So I will tell you more about when we have the class about the enter into middle way. Then 34 is talking about, don't use the harsh words, disturb the mind of others, and cause destruction in the bodhisattva's conducts. Therefore, give up the harsh words, which are the unpleasant to others. This is practice of bodhisattva. For example, somebody did a lot of bad thing to you, we must respond. We must say, we must speak out, but we no need to use the harsh word. Harsh word. We can explain, we can respond with the nice and sweet words. Then the people will listen. Also, when you speak, you feel good. If you use the bad and harsh word, is no good. Particularly if you follow Bodhisattva path, because you always already accept it, all sentient beings as your dear mothers, your dearest mother. Therefore, we should not use any harsh words. Then 35, okay, I don't think we have enough time, so it's almost finished. So the principle, I think I will start tomorrow. So we have only 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If there's any questions, so please feel free to ask question.
Yeah, we have 15 minutes. So the first question comes from John Alberts. John, your question, please.
Hi, thank you, Geshe-la, for the revision. My question is about His Holiness bringing out the third turning and the subject clear light. And my question is, if the extremely subtle mind is the indestructible drop that goes from life to life, how is that not a permanent phenomenon on its own side?
Thank you so much asking the question about the subtlest mind. Okay, generally, not only for you, I think for everybody, some of among the attenders, some of you are totally new about the subtle mind. Let's say the 5 sensations are very gross minds. Eyes consciousness, air consciousness, because when we have a deep sleeping, all the consciousness go to lay dormant, not functioning. It's very much depend on the brain or brain cells, brain activities. Second, we have attachment, anger, ignorance. Those are bit subtle compared with the 5 aggregates. Within the 6 mind, so there's another gross, subtle, very subtle mind. The subtlest mind always within us, always there, but not really awakening, not always, not awake all the time, we awake very sometime. So this subtle mind is the main kind of root to arise all the minds, positive, negative, any kinds of mind, everything originated from the subtle mind. So when we reach to the end of this life, on the end of almost the death, the last moment of the death, all the consciousness totally dissolved into the subtle minds. Now his question is, the subtlest mind, which is with the one entity, with the subtle energy, one entity means, due to the awareness, we name consciousness. Due to having movement, is moving this life to next life, and we name as a subtle, we name energy. So this come from, billions of years before, also will go continuously, even after you become a Buddha, is still there. His question about is how it is not a permanent. Here we need to know the meaning of permanent and impermanent. The meaning of impermanent is not just the changes. Having changes is not the meaning of permanence. For example, this is kind of cup. The cup is impermanent. When the cup has changed, the emptiness of the cup has changed. When the cup is totally ceased, the emptiness of the cup is also ceased. So what does mean, meaning of impermanence? That means thing has changed, thing is changing due to their own causes and condition. The subtle mind change momentarily, but the continuum is always there. The continuum is always there. First moment transform into second moment. The second moment transform into third moment. Therefore, you can see there's changing. It's changing not by others, changing by its own causes condition. Therefore, the subtlest mind, the clear light mind is impermanent. Number one is arise from causes condition. Things arise from causes condition subject to change. Therefore, from the Rice Sibling Sutara say, this is exists, therefore that exists. This is condition, therefore that is condition. Right? So this is talking about the characteristic of the impermanence. Therefore, for you, my answer is the subtlest mind, the continuum never going to break. is always go continuously, but it's change momentarily. First moment, second moment, third moment, fourth. It's just transforming, change continuously. Therefore, it is impermanent. And also, non-destructible, because none of the any other condition can stop, can break, can eliminate the subtle consciousness. Therefore, in this destructible, right? I cannot remember English words. So this answer for you.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Yeah. The next question comes from Sandeep.
Hmm?
How does one combine the embracing bodhicitta with the neutral emptiness simultaneously? How to avoid decrease in bodhicitta intensity while seeing emptiness, since in the ultimate reality there are no permanent sentient beings?
Okay, here there can be, I think, different view based on my study, how we really embrace bodhicitta with the wisdom which realizes emptiness. Based on the Sutrayana practice, I'm not talking about Tantrayana practice. Based on the Sutrayana practice, the both mind cannot arise simultaneously. When the bodhicitta mind is arise, and that moment, the wisdom cannot arise simultaneously. When the wisdom mind arise, the bodhicitta cannot arise simultaneously. It's always alternative way. Then how we, embrace these two together? Here, I think if you study Lamrim, also other, I think Lamrim, not the Lama Tsongkhap, other Lamrim, it give an analogy. The mother who are having conversation with someone who lost her dear child. The mother lost her dearest child. Then he was speaking to someone. She was speaking to someone. In the deep down, she always remember her child, her lost child, her child. She was not talking about child. The sorrow is always there. Therefore, when you meditate on emptiness, before you meditate on emptiness, you need to cultivate bodhicitta. Within the cultivation bodhicitta, you need to enter into meditation on emptiness. The wisdom always absorbs emptiness. The bodhicitta is there as a foundation. It's the same way when you cultivate bodhicitta, before it, you meditate on emptiness very extensively, then slowly you cultivate bodhicitta. You are practicing bodhicitta, you are cultivating bodhicitta, but the wisdom is there. Here you need to learn how to practice 6 perfections simultaneously. When you practice generosity, at the same time, you need to learn how to practice other 5 perfections simultaneously with the practice of generosity. So this is an answer for you. I think I'm still missing other part. Can you repeat the other parts? Hello?
Sorry, I didn't realize I mute. How to avoid decrease in bodhicitta intensity while seeing emptiness, since the ultimate reality, there are no permanent sentient beings?
I think here I'm not mistaken. I think you are mixing. You're missing, I think, some important. How to imbue bodhicitta with the wisdom with the bodhicitta. Yes, there's no permanent sentient being. You cannot cultivate bodhicitta absorb on the permanent sentient beings. You cannot, because they are not permanent sentient beings. So while you are meditating on emptiness, you are absorbing on impermanent, which is emptiness. Emptiness. But the influence of the bodhicitta is always there. So I think this moment I have only this answer for you. Next question, please.
Yeah, next questions come from Lien Chu. Lien Chu, your question, please.
Oh, thank you, Geshe-la, for this tutorial. As always, it's very helpful. Can I just trouble you to go back to verse 30? Verse 30, which you explained just now. Maybe I missed something, but I just would like to be a bit sure of my understanding. Verse 30 is about the non-conceptualizing of the three spheres. And as I understand it, we are supposed to be able to meditate on the emptiness of the three spheres. And I think you helpfully explained the agent, which would be the subject, the object, and the action. Am I correct to understand that this is a practice that we have to do all the time? I mean, 24/7 when we are aware throughout the day and the night or whatever? Or is this for the meditation session? That means when we meditate on renunciation, bodhicitta, or wisdom or emptiness, we have to have this non-conceptualizing at the end of the three spheres. What is the recommendation here? Thank you.
The first part was where you have a correct, understanding about the three spheres. So here, I think everybody must remember the Menden's merit and supreme, the Menden merits, supreme and Menden merits.
Mundane and supreme mundane, yes.
Merit. So when we practice generosity with the sense of sense of inherent existence, the agent, action, the recipient, then this kind of action always bound we in the samsara, because this practice never able to shake the root of the samsara, which is ignorance. Here, I think also we need to remember the two kayas, Rupa Kaya and Dharma Kaya. If you only practice bodhicitta, without really practicing emptiness, without meditating on emptiness, if you only practice bodhicitta, let's say it cannot be, let's say you can have the Rupa Kaya, not the Dharma Kaya. If you only practice meditating emptiness, let's say you can have the Dharma Kaya, not the Rupa Kaya. All the Mahayana practices mainly practice to achieve two kayas, Dharma Kaya, Rupa Kaya. Therefore, before you meditate bodhicitta, you need to remember the sentient beings, empty of inherent and sentient being, and generate bodhicitta and compassion. Then at the same time, you are accumulating the two merits. Right? Therefore, whenever you practice any path, not necessarily you need to practice the wisdom. Somehow, at the end, you need to practice both unionly or together. Otherwise, you can achieve one, you cannot achieve other. So, in order to complete the Mahayana path, in order to complete the achievement, the true achievement, so you need to practice the methods and wisdom unionly. So, in the Sutrayana practice, union means, without losing the force each other, you have to practice. And the Tantrayana is a bit different. It's different. For example, when we say, Om Sobhava Shuddha Savadama Sobhava Shuddha Hang, then everything empty. Within the emptiness, then you arise as a idam. That means focus on emptiness, absorbing emptiness. The mind is set as arise as a conventional phenomena. It's very unique. Therefore, the union of practicing methods and wisdom is different based on Sutrayan and Tantrayan. Yeah, this answer for you. Next question, please.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Our last question for the day is read like this.
Okay.
Is relations to a cup. How is the emptiness of the cup? When the cup is destroyed, the emptiness of the cup ceases. Hence, it seems the emptiness of the cup is temporal. But we cannot say the emptiness of the cup is impermanent, although it is a temporal phenomena. In fact, it is a permanent phenomena. This is confusing. Can Geshe-la kindly explain?
Okay, here I think if you have the English book about the Buddhist science, the collective topic, right? Collective topic. Please you study permanent, impermanent phenomena. Within the impermanence phenomena, there are three: form, consciousness, and the non-aesthetic formative phenomena. Then within the permanent, it has a two subdivision. Two subdivision within the permanence. Some permanent phenomena, permanent everywhere, every time. Some permanent phenomena, permanent sometime. In Tibetan we say, Rengavetapa, Rega means sometime, somewhere, like as a permanent. There's, for example, let's say Rano, I'm staying in the TBC center. Rano is a TBC center here. Within the TBC center, there's a space of the TBC center, space. When the TBC building removed, there's no more TBC center space because the center has removed. Then we cannot name there's a space of TBC. So when the cup disappeared or destroyed, no more cup. Then there's no more emptiness of a cup because the cup and emptiness of the cups, the two phenomena are one entity. One entity. Two truths. Each of the phenomena must have two truths. Conventional, which is the object itself, ultimate is emptiness. The two truths always there. The phenomena is there, the two truths were there. When the phenomena disappear, there's no more two truths. Yes, it is temporal, but not impermanent. Because I told you the meaning of impermanent not just has a changes, stuff has changed. Changed by its own cause condition. The thing which is produced by cause condition, same cause condition change the phenomena. Therefore, the emptiness of the cup has changed because there's no more basis. It is not has changed because of its own causes condition, not due to the causes condition, due to the basis. Yes, you can say temporal, but not be named impermanence. Okay, and thank you so much, all of you, being patient with my English. And so we will have a revision class tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, do we have a, we will.
Yes, Geshe-la, we will have the third day of revision, same time, 1:15.
Then tomorrow there's a Yamataka.
Yeah, the Yamataka Fire Puja will begin at 3, so we have enough time, Geshe-la. Don't worry.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you so much.